This is the Barbados Today morning news for Thursday, March 30th. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary Claire Williams. A major investigation of the drug squad is underway as the Royal Barbados Police Force tries to solve a potentially embarrassing case of missing drug money. There are few details as to how far the net spreads, but Acting Assistant Commissioner responsible for crime management, Libron Sobers, confirmed to Barbados Today that a number of officers are under investigation in connection with the missing cash. According to an official source, about $2.5 million in narco cash disappeared sometime between March 5th and 10th this year. But it is not clear where the money was held, when it was discovered missing, or who reported its disappearance. Sobers says he cannot confirm the missing amount because he is still awaiting a report from the senior officer conducting the probe. One insurance executive is warning motorists to expect a significant hike in premiums this year. President of the General Insurance Association of Barbados, David Brown, has put drivers on notice that they would have to help foot the bill for the millions of dollars in death claims that the industry now has to pay out. His notice comes amid concerns about the rising number of deaths so far this year on the roads.
Certainly, the increased claims costs will have a trickle-down effect on policyholders in general. They're not just those persons who would have had accidents that will suffer the increase. The frequency and severity meaning the nature of the accidents and injuries will have some impact on the industry. I don't have numbers. It's still very early stage to know that. Those claims will not be quantified at this stage, but it is anticipated that there could be a significant increase in the amount of claims that insurance companies have to pay. And insurance is a pooling arrangement whereby policyholders contribute to that pool out of which losses are paid. So any significant impact on that will have implications for those policyholders who are part of the pool.
Brown also offered some recommendations, including the introduction of drunk driving laws to reduce the loss of life on the roads.
And there need to be more vigilance on the road by police officers, but of course they might say that a number of other events they don't have the resources. But I think a police presence is quite helpful in situations like these. I think that the time has come to address drunk driving in our legislation. It is pretty absent right now in terms of being of any help to deal with some of the things that we suspect is happening out there. And there is the concern relating to alleged racing on our roads, particularly highways. So I think these are some of the areas that we need to address. And lastly, there is the issue of using cell phones, while operating a vehicle.
Police are seeking the public's assistance in locating 30-year-old Shiraz O'Brien Patel, also known as Dapper. His last known address is Upper Wavell Avenue, Black Rock, St. Michael. He's about 5 feet 3 inches tall, slim and brown-skinned. He has brown eyes and a low haircut with the words outlaw tattooed on his left forearm. Police are asking Patel to present himself to the Black Rock Police Station accompanied by an attorney of his choice. Anyone who may know the whereabouts of Shiraz O'Brien Patel is asked to contact the Black Rock Police Station at 417-7500 or 417-7505. You can also call the police emergency number 211, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-TIPS, that's 1-800-8477, or the nearest police station. In more police news this morning, the 69-year-old Rockhall St. Thomas woman who was reported missing yesterday has been found. Police say Eileen Bovell was found by police in a 100-foot ravine and she is safe. She was discovered by a search party comprising police officers from the Northern Division assisted by officers from the K9 Unit and the Tactical Response Unit. Bovell was taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital by ambulance for treatment for minor injuries. MP for Christchurch Central Stephen Lashley says his office has been working behind the scenes to assist one of his most vulnerable constituents. Lashley was responding to criticisms from the daughter of 88-year-old Edmunda Gittens, who was evicted from her home earlier this week after living there for most of her life. She charged that Lashley did not respond to pleas for help on behalf of her mother for 6 months. Yesterday, Chairman of the National Assistance Board, Senator David Durant, said they had found a home for Gittens. But Lashley says his office had been making arrangements for the past 6 months, and it was as a result of this foresight that the situation was resolved so quickly.
We have actually been dealing with that for a little while in managing the whole issue. Now, there was never any danger of Ms. Gittens not having somewhere to be when the eviction notice was executed. I think the story conveyed that she has nowhere to go and so on.
Okay.
There was intervention done through the Ministry of Social Care. And as a result of that, that is why the chairman of the National Assistance Board, Reverend Durant, was deployed to the scene. And you probably would have seen him there if you were there.
Yes, I did.
It was as a result of that intervention that he was on location. My personal assistant was also there to feed back to me what was going on. We were putting in place a plan for her. So it is not the case that she was in danger of living on the street or not being taken care of, right?
Sports now. The second T20 between West Indies and Pakistan bowls off today at Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad. Carlos Brathwaite's men will be looking to improve their batting when they face their rivals. In Sunday's opener here at Kensington Oval, West Indies slumped from 35 for 1 to 49 for 6 in the 11th over after being sent into bat. Looking ahead to today's match, Brathwaite said they need to step up their game.
I just don't think we put enough runs on the board, and as a result of that, Pakistan batsmen were able to play, we played into their hands basically, where they can nudge the ones and the twos and not be under pressure to score and play the power shots. I think that negatively affected Badri's and Sunil's game plans, which, as we all know, they're a lot more difficult to score boundaries off as opposed to just rotating. So once the batters can put a decent total on the board, 150 upwards, they'll come into their own even more, with batsmen having to be more attacking towards them.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Get your paper. Only 225, 220. Who? For what? That's Bear Stale News. I don't read about that on Barbados Today since last night. That can't only care do. 220. Who?
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
We're back now with news from the region and a court victory for a former government minister in St. Lucia. Richard Frederick was arrested in 2007 for underinvoicing and evasion of customs duties. We get more in this report from HTS News Force in Castries.
It is noteworthy that Richard Frederick was arrested after claiming to have paid over $200,000 customs duty in total for his 2 vehicles. Despite the arrest, no criminal charges were ever laid against the Frederick brothers. Consequently, the 2 filed constitutional motions for wrongful arrest and wrongful detention and seizure of the vehicles, which were seized on the same day of the arrest. Some 2 years, 4 months later, by way of court order, the 3 vehicles were released to their custody. Now, after almost a decade, the matter has seen some sort of finality. On Wednesday, March 29th, Justice Godfrey Smith in the High Court ruled that the arrests of the Frederick brothers, as well as the detention and seizure of the vehicles, were unlawful. The only aspect left in the case is the question of compensation.
And finally, on the international scene, a senior U.S. general says it will be difficult to maintain high standards to avoid civilian casualties in the Iraqi city of Mosul. This as the military begins a formal probe into an explosion that is believed to have killed scores of civilians. The U.S. military has acknowledged that the U.S.-led coalition probably had a role in the March 17 blast, but it said the Islamic State could be to blame.
there's a fair chance that we may have contributed to this. And so now we have moved to the investigation phase. So it'll be a more formalized approach to really look into the details of this as much as we can to establish what happened, establish what the facts are, identify accountability, and then certainly identify the lessons learned out of that. The munition that was employed here should not have created the effects that have been observed. So that causes us to look at that to see if there were other things that may have contributed that as well. So what we do is try to be very complete in the investigation. It takes a little bit of time, but we usually have a pretty good answer at the end of it.
And that's the news this morning. Remember, you can get more on our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also tune into Channel 99 on Flow TV or Mix 96.9 FM for more news and sports. I am Mary Claire Williams. Good morning.